It's a great honor for me to introduce Dr. Justin to our viewers. Sir is basically from Zimbabwe. Sir is founding director and academic dean, Center for Organization, Leadership and Development, shortly it's called COLD, from Zimbabwe. Sir is academic director, Business Professionals Education Center, Abu Dhabi, UAE. Sir has received many awards, including Fellowship Award from Chartered Institute of Leadership and Governance in 2019, Exceptional Educator and Learner Motivator Award in 2018, SAS Academic Entrepreneurship Award in 2020. Sir is visiting faculty for many universities and many countries. Sir has visited more than 15 countries like UK, USA, Canada, India, Malaysia, and United Arab Emirates. And lots of list in his biodata is it will take a lot of time if I read all. Sir has published 28 research papers, authored 3 books, and guided many scholars. Welcome again, sir, to our program. So before going to start, first of all, I would like to welcome all our viewers to this program, and I would like to thank all the viewers for becoming live to this session. So we are going to start. Sir, first of all, I would like to ask you, what is your concept on leadership and what are the rules of leaders, do you think, sir?
Thank you so much, Dr. Rahman. And first of all, let me appreciate the work that you are doing in Assam state of India, the Rahman Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Scholars Society, and the Scholars TV. It's much commendable. And I'm honored once again to be part of this discussion this morning. And thank you so much for reading that introduction. Most important to my introduction is that I'm married to Grace, and we have 2 sons. And it's a relationship that we have been for the past 15 years, faithful to it, and I look forward to that going in the future. And the discussion on today is on leadership, and you've asked a question on my conceptualization of leadership and the role of leaders. And I think this is a topic that has been discussed in a lot of sessions, and the question has been asked in a number of interviews. And each person comes with their own understanding or interpretation of that concept. And that is what then makes leadership complex. But today I'm just going to say leadership to me is about loving and working. If you love and you work, you are a leader. And these are some of the fundamental aspects that we don't see in leaders or in leadership today. It also involves the ability or the capacity of the leader to build high-performing teams and high-value organizations. So when we look at individuals who are building high-value teams and high-value organizations, and these people love, these people work, these are the people we need to call leaders. Leadership is about emotional intelligence. It's about passion. It's about influence and moral intelligence. These are some of the concepts that define leadership. And fundamental to my conceptualization of leadership is that issue of love and work, and then integrating some of these fundamental humanitarian values that we expect to see in individuals who make decisions. And leadership, looking at it from self, family, organization, and societal levels. So from that conceptualization, allow me to highlight that there are 2 fundamental or conceptual shifts that we need to see in organizations or in leadership in its broadest sense. The conceptualization, number one, a conceptual shift, is the shift from personality focus, where we just focus on people and their personality, but to actually focus on the spiritual development of the people who assume leadership roles. So we need a conceptual shift from seeing leaders as leaders, because most people we have in positions of authority have proven that they are not actually leaders. So a conceptual shift from the focus on personalities to the focus on spiritual development. The second shift is the focus from what happens inside the leader or what happens inside the organization to actually focus on the deliverables, the results that people bring to the fore. And our conversation here is embedded in organizations and the growth of organizations. And what do we mean when we say organization growth? From where I stand, it's about development, it's about expansion, transformation, and change leadership. So leaders therefore need that conceptual shift from personalities to spiritual development and valuing human potential, and also the shift from what happens inside the person, what happens inside the firm, to the results that they bring to the table. And lastly, I would say on that question, leadership is about empowering and energizing people, influencing people to achieve more, to excel in their areas of practice. And the roles of a leader, therefore, is number one, to energize, to empower, and to help people discover their strengths and be able to utilize those strengths in the different areas of engagement. When we are talking in terms of organizations, we also bring in the issue of strategy, innovation, collaboration, and skills and expertise of the people in organizations. So leaders or leadership covers some of those concepts in that respect.
Thank you, sir. So, sir, you already told leaders means loving. Very good concept. So our viewers will understand. To become a leader, one must have the loving capability. They should not think their team as a worker or some others. They should love. Anyway, sir.
I will add on to that. And when we talk of the issue of love,
yes,
people look at it as something that's easy.
Yes,
we just indicate that, yes, I love my wife. I love the people I work with. I love these things.
Yes.
But there is a deeper meaning in that, which is what makes leadership so complex.
Yes.
If you tell people in leadership positions to love their team, it's more like when you see your team in an organization, you consider them as your family. And if you consider your team as your family, it changes the way you relate to them. And it has that transformational impact in terms of results.
So, sir, we all know that leaders are those who guide, who inspire, and motivate their team. So, can you tell us how a leader inspire and motivate the team?
Okay, that's quite interesting. And we have seen that leadership is about inspiring and motivation and influencing. And how then should leaders do that? Some leaders believe in motivational speaking. They gather their people together and they make all sorts of promises, like we see mainly in politics when people are campaigning.
Yes.
And we have seen that concept in organizations where people, when they assume leadership roles, they gather their team and they start making some funny promises just to get people to work, and eventually nothing happens.
Yes.
But I will start to answer that question from the work that was done by Cousins and Posner. I think that's in around 1986, 1987, if I'm not mistaken. They identified 5 practices for exemplary leadership. And number 1 is to model the way. If you want to inspire your team, if you want to motivate your team, model the way. And in modeling the way, you are getting your team to believe in you as a person. And we want a leadership that does not believe in words, because the issue of lip service in leadership has failed a lot of organizations. So model the way, practice what needs to be done, and let people follow that. Cousins and Posner also indicate that you need to inspire a shared vision. Not just bringing a vision to the table because you're a leader and you think everybody has to follow to that. But if we want to inspire and motivate people, we need to inspire a shared vision. And this is where we bring people to the table and get them to understand the vision that we have for an organization. And everybody then start contributing to that vision. It's not about lip service. Cousins and Posner also indicate that you need to enable others to act, rather than you doing all sorts of things. Enable others to act, because everyone in an organization has potential. And the realization that everybody in this world has potential is one thing that is missing in our leadership conversations. We only believe that there are certain people who have potential, and this whole world is created only for them. And everyone else is meant to be a worker, a cleaner, and all sorts of things. But everybody has potential. So to inspire and motivate people, realize that potential and magnify that potential to society. Cousins and Posner also said, encourage the heart when you're working with people. Encouraging the heart means you need to recognize people, celebrate people for the little things that they are doing. If he is a cleaner or she is a cleaner in your organization, celebrate when the kitchen is clean and encourage the heart. It's not about paying people money for them to be encouraged or inspired or motivated. It's about connection with people and emotionally connecting with people. We are social beings and we value connection more than material things that organizations prioritize and put forward. So we can look at inspiring and motivating people from those 5 practices by Cousins and Posner, and they were established in 1987. And it's a pity that most organizations, most so-called leaders, are yet to accept that you need to model the way, encourage the heart, inspire a shared vision, and challenge the process. These are small things that you expect normal human being to be doing. And this comes with that love and that working that leaders should have. I would also add to that, I hope I will not take much time. If you realize that I'm speaking too much, you can stop me. We need to build trust in leadership, more like we do in our homes with our spouses. Building trust. And how do we build trust if we want to inspire and motivate people? I would say, number 1, you need to develop leaders in your organization, not develop followers. Develop and lead a team of leaders. But most people in organizations are leading followers. What one of an article we published said, you are leading zombies in organizations. People who just follow you. And a lot of people we see in organizations, they pride in that, to be leading people who are not creative, who are not innovative, who are not curious of anything. And they say they are leaders in that setup. A lot of people lead people in organizations and they keep people in one position for 2 years. And this has a ripple effect to the entire family of that person. I'm just logged as a clerk in a cubicle, and someone is boasting about being a leader and putting on suits and driving on cars, and they say they are normal. And for some of us, that's when we start questioning the mindset of that person. So develop leaders and listen to them. If you're working with people, listen to people because they have something to share. You also build trust by managing moral failings. A lot of leaders relapse, they topple over because of moral failings. We hear stories in organizations, when you go into organizations corridors, that the CEO is dating a certain employee who is married. We hear stories of sexual harassment in organizations by these code executives. And these stories are all over the organization. And these moral failings affect your effectiveness as a leader in terms of inspiring and motivating people. So how do we get to that? We need character formation if you want to be effective as a leader. And the process of character formation requires you investing time to self-reflection and say, am I doing the right thing in Rahman Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences? Am I a good leader really? How am I relating with people? And that moral self-reflection will lead you to moral self-correction if you are normal. If you are not a normal human being, you are not going to pick that. And this is the dilemma we see in leadership, because a lot of these so-called leaders, they are not normal to realize their mistakes. So we get to moral self-correction. And moral self-correction will lead you to moral self-awakening and self-reorientation. And when you go through that process of transformation as a leader, you then start inspiring people. Look at all the great leaders that we present when we are teaching leadership in schools. They are people who were of high moral standing. And we discuss these people because of the impact that they have made on other human beings. They have created leaders. They did not create followers. And they have made a significant impact in society. Number three, we need to also encourage divergent thinking when we are working with people. Create an environment that is open for dialogue. And people can bring divergent ideas and we can deliberate on those issues and then implement without showing any element of favoritism in our conversations. We also need to walk the talk. Most leaders are good at making promises, but there is no performance. You attend a leadership talk with the CEO, they promise their employees that, you know what, by the end of this year, everybody in this organization will be driving these type of cars. Everybody in this organization will be earning the best salary in the market. This is what most CEOs waste people's time speaking when they are addressing their employees. But then when the time goes on, nothing happens. And after some time, the CEO resigns, he gets another job, he's paid more, and the same people are working in the same organization earning peanuts. And the same person has not done anything to develop people. So we need to walk the talk. And lastly, we need to be normal when we are leaders in organizations, and in that way we inspire and motivate people.
Yes, thank you, sir. And we are going to the next question, sir. At present, leadership development is a booming industry. We have seen so many motivational speakers, leaders, and taking their so many channels and others addressing and so many things in the leadership industry. So, can you, sir, tell me some leading leadership organization and how you think about this leadership industry and the employability creation on this thing?
Mhm. Yes, if I get that correctly, we see a booming leadership development industry worldwide. We have seen a lot of leadership workshops, a lot of leadership conversations. And I think the industry in 2019 was estimated to be approximately 370 billion industry by the Forbes magazine. And why have we seen this growth in that industry is because of the realization that we need humanitarian values in our organizations. We need to develop people's potential. And there are certain skills, strategic planning, coaching, and mentorship skills that are required in organizations, because a lot of people's potential has been wasted, especially by organizations. Most organizations have destroyed people's potential, so much such that people have become ordinary. Hence, we have seen the booming industry, and we have a lot of leadership development organizations globally. I wouldn't have the names at hand, But I come from the organizational leadership and development field, and I can speak of organizations such as the International Society for Organization Development and Change, the Organization Development Network, and our own, the Center for Organization Leadership and Development. We are also part of the leadership development industry as a result of the need to address key skills that are required in organizations and embedding humanitarian values in those organizations. But in certain instances, it's unfortunate that we have seen the industry also booming as a result of opportunism. And as such, we have seen a lot of substandard leadership development programs that are just adding to the industry. It's good that they speak about leadership, but they are not adding much value to the industry itself, but rather they are just deepening old paradigms or certain theoretical concepts without actually leading to transformation. So we need now to separate the leadership development organizations that have depth in their philosophical orientation and transformative value, and some of these funny leadership development organizations that are coming up as a result of lack of employment and just filling in the gap and trying to take opportunities of the market.
Okay, sir. We all are aware about now COVID-19. Definitely this COVID-19 has collapsed the economy globally, not in India or other countries. It has impacted in the most of the countries in the world. Do you think a leader can make a continuous development though this type of decline in economy? What is the role of leader in the economy development?
Yes, it's true that COVID-19 has paralyzed a lot of sectors of economies worldwide. And it come up as an awakening that has forced most people to reconsider their approaches to organizations and their approaches to leadership. And it's very paramount for leaders to take a leading role in that. And this is where the issue of change leadership comes into play in order to lead continuous improvement. Because change leaders, they surface during times like this COVID-19 era, and they demonstrate that strategic intelligence in terms of how then are we going to maneuver this particular situation and ensure that we survive in spite of what is going around. So what is required in leaders today in the period of COVID-19 is a change leadership mindset, and a change leadership mindset that is embedded in appreciative leadership, understanding what is happening around. And we have seen a lot of organizations managed to thrive during this particular environment. So we need strategic insight, strategic foresight, and strategic oversight, which from the field I come from is about systems thinking and how then we can align or balance the external environment and the internal environment of the organization and ensure there is stability and continuity in our organizations. So it is during these times that we can now see who are the real leaders as they manage to drive their organizations into prosperity. So yes, these are trying times, and these are times which have led us to see some essential leadership competencies or skills that we require in our leaders, and the need to be adaptable to the changing environment.
Definitely, sir. So most of the people have one misconception. They think the leaders are those only who we have seen in the political field. And no doubt, the growth of any organization or any country not depend only on the leaders of who we are seen in the politics. So there depends on the real leaders. Whatever you have told, the real leaders will influence and develop in the economy. So my question is, sir, so the growth of an organization definitely depends on the leader. So how an organization will find a perfect leader? Is only the owner or the proprietor of this company is the leader, or some other maybe leader they can acquire by a company or organization? Have you got, sir, my point?
Yes, yes. The growth of an organization depends on a leader.
Yes, sir.
I would tweak that a little bit to say the growth of an organization depends on the collective effort of the people in an organization, and the leader is there to then inspire a shared vision. Like I indicated earlier to say, growth is about expansion. We need to expand our operations from India to Africa to Europe. It's also about development, which we can see in terms of the systems, the processes that the organization uses, and the transformation that is happening within the organization and its people, and change leadership. So leaders then become fundamental in driving that and bringing people together. That's why we talk about collaboration, collaborative capital. How do we bring people together to work in the same direction? And how do we get people to understand the mission? In most instances, when we talk of people in organizations, we indicate that we need to understand their unique skills, the uniqueness of each employee. But that is fine. Everybody is unique. But when then we bring people into an organization, we need to identify what is universal to the people in the organization. Despite our uniqueness, there is something that is universal to all of us, the 500 employees in the organization. And what is it that is universal and that will lead the organization to growth? Is the mission, the vision, the values and goals of the organization. If we identify that, then we'll be able to drive the organization forward and into to the required direction. So leaders, yes, we need leaders, but we need the collective effort of everyone in an organization in order to achieve the organization's results.
So I want to know, sir, how an organization will find a perfect leader if they search.
How an organization would find a perfect leader if they search.
Yes.
I don't think there's a perfect leader,
Yeah.
really, for any organization. But we have people who come into organization and then they understand the organization and they know how to bring people together. And so there are certain attributes that we need to look for. And we are not going to talk about these attributes generic, but the attributes have to be aligned to the organization's mission and vision. So we look at our mission and vision and say, what kind of person do we want? Then we define in terms of the job description. And then the person comes. When the person is in the organization, they are not just going to stick to their job description or the profile that they have on their CV, because what's happening inside the organization is different. And we always say an organization is always in a state of disorganization. So when you join today, the organization is shifting. Your mere presence as Dr. Rahman in an organization shifts the dynamics of that organization. So though we have defined our job description and say we are looking for someone who is of integrity, adaptability, and all these interesting words that we put on CVs when we are looking for people, when you get into the organization, your mere presence shifts the dynamics of that organization. But now you need to be able to explore and exploit the environment in which you are operating and drive the organization forward. If organizations are looking for a perfect somebody, I don't think they will get one. And if someone says I'm a perfect fit for your organization, they are lying, because the dynamics of organizations are always changing, and we need people who are adaptable to that organization, people who are good in terms of engaging people and creating positive and healthy cultures in that organization, people who can lead change. So that's how we can then go through the recruitment process for leaders.
So you, sir, told a change in the leadership. So we all know that change leadership is a key concept nowadays. What make a change agent and how one can effectively lead a change, sir?
What makes a change agent and how one can
Yes.
effectively lead change?
Yes.
Yes, this is the subject that I spend most of my time on, a little bit though. And like I indicated earlier, change leaders surface during times of transition. When an organization is in a transition stage, we need to see change. And they surface during times of uncertainty, during times of volatility, and in ambiguity situations. And this is where people, those who are change agents, thrive. They thrive in ambiguity, they thrive in uncertainty. So what makes change leaders? Number one is the ability to explore and exploit the environment. They study the environment in which they are working, and they exploit that environment in order to achieve certain results that the organization is looking for. So they have an understanding, depth of understanding with respect to the field that they are operating in. For you to be effective as a change agent, you also need to promote that divergent thinking, and you see things from different perspectives. You are not rigid just because you have been practicing this particular thing and you are rigid to that. But effective change agents understand volatility, uncertainty, and ambiguity, and looks at things from diverse perspectives. You also need to listen. And when you listen, then you create a vision that addresses that particular change. You need understanding, you need clarity, and you need to be agile. You need to be faster in the way you do things. You also need to have conversations with people if you want to be effective in leading change. So there is the diagnostic aspect and the dialogic aspect in effective change leadership. You speak to people, you get into conversations with people, and you build strategies or interventions together with people. It's not only one person who will lead the change initiative. And for you to be effective, as I close this topic, is the issue of change intelligence. And when you are a change agent, you need that change intelligence, meaning you understand your change leadership style, and you're able to relate that or to apply that to the organization or situation that you are working in. And that requires three things. Number one, you need the heart strength. And heart strength means you can connect with people, and people are open to then talk to you about the issues that are there in the organization or the environment that you are. Number two is you need the head strength. And the head strength is about your cognitive abilities. You can connect with people cognitively and map out opportunities to lead the organization forward. Number three is the hands strength. And it's not the hand strength in terms of you touching people in organizations. It then becomes harassment. But it's about your behavior as a person and how people are free to or willing to talk to you as a change agent. So change intelligence is about heart strength, head strength, and hand strength. And when you put these together and you're in a difficult situation, you'll be able to find ways and develop possibilities and open wide that veil that lead you into the options that you can take. And then you can lead the organization forward. So there's the diagnostic and the dialogic side of that.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we know that you have worked in UAE, you visited so many times in India and Asian countries, though you are from Zimbabwe and from African, and you have met so many leaders. So what you observe, sir, in difference in skill in Indian leaders and African leaders? What
Wow.
you observe?
The difference in Indian leaders and African leaders.
Yes, yes.
Well, I wouldn't say there are much differences in terms of the Indian leaders or the African leaders. Why would I say that? From the little knowledge I have, we share a lot of similarities than differences. Similarities in terms of the political developments in India and the political developments in Africa. There are a lot of similarities there. We also have, I think, similar developmental history. Our history of development as Africa is almost same as the development, economic development of India. And also in terms of culture, I think in India, religion plays a significant role in shaping how leaders act and behave. And in Africa as well, we see the cultural influences playing a significant role in defining leaders. And religion, in most instances, the Christian Islamic religion shape the way leaders behave. I would say from where I come from Africa, the main challenge that we have is the issue of corruption, which I'm not sure how it is in India. We suffer from corruption, not only from the political level, but corruption even at family level. A lot of our family leaders have corrupt minds in terms of how they even run their families. A lot of organizational leaders are corrupt. I think more than the political leaders that we see. But when we discuss such topic, we only focus on the public officers. But I think that's one issue that maybe could be different from what's happening in India, where we have corruption that is rampant at individual level. When someone is just walking in the streets in Africa, it's most likely that that person is corrupt, is thinking of something. And at family, we see a lot of domestic violence and all these issues. I think in India, we read about rape and stuff. But the corrupt mind is something that is so much in Africa. But we share a lot of similarities than differences between India and African leaders. And I think there are a lot of bilateral relations that are there. We see, I know a lot of students studying in India from Africa, and I know there are a lot of Indian students in Africa. And in Zimbabwe, I know we have a whole lot of Indian community there. And I visited India also several times, and there are a lot of similarities rather than differences.
So there are lots of things to know from you, definitely, but the time is more important. And your time is more valuable than us because you have spent your valuable time with us. So I am not spending much more time from you, sir. Final advice from your side, sir, how to become a good leader. How to
Final
become
advice, how to become a good leader. Allow me maybe to raise 7 or 8 points.
Yes.
Based on, I think, one presentation I made before. If we are to master leadership and if we are to be effective in terms of leadership, number one, we need to close the promise performance gap. When we are in leadership or we assume leadership roles, we need to close the promise performance gap and actually do what needs to be done. This whole thing of promising and promising, even in politics, it has led most of our societies nowhere. When people stand in front of a crowd and they start making some funny statements, funny promises, it's more like you are belittling people and you are becoming, you think you are superior and you can, it leads to a lot of lies in that respect. So we need to close that gap and say, if I am a leader, I need to practice leadership. There's no need to promise people. People should just see what I do and then they follow that. So we need to stop the flow of words and just deliver. It could be in politics, or it could be in politics, or it could be in organizations. And number two, we need to be an example of ethics in our leadership. Let's be ethical and model the way for people and future generations to follow. So those who assume leadership roles, it could be at family level, it could be a community leader, it could be a political leader. We need to strive to be examples of ethics and ensure that future generations have something to learn from our leadership. We need to stay committed to sustainability. There's a lot of talk today about environmental sustainability and issues of climate change. Every one of us has a responsibility to be committed to sustainability. It could be the way you throw litter in the street. It could be the way organizations support the environmental initiatives. the corporate social responsibility issues. We need people who are committed to sustainability and make this world a better place to live, and also prepare this for future generations. In organizations, we need to empower women. In society, in leadership generally, we need to empower women to recharge organizations and societies. It's so pitiful to see that we still have conversations about, can women be leaders or not? And we need people who are normal and who are enlightened and ensure that everybody has potential. In spite of you are men or you are women, we need to empower women to be leaders and to recharge our organizations and societies. We also need to allow others to flower and flourish. If you're working with people in Rahman Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences, everybody in that organization should flower, should flourish, should grow. If you are buying a new car this year, what has your employee bought? In most instances, our CEOs, our directors are changing cars every year, but our employees can't change a shoe every year. They're taking the shoe for repair 15, 20 times. And here is someone who calls him or herself a CEO, a leader. They change cars for themselves. They change cars for their kids. They change cars for their village people using the organization's money. And this is something that shows a whole lot of abnormal leadership. So we need people who allow others to flower and flourish and say, we all are human beings and we should develop. That's where the love and working comes from. We need to elevate, magnify, and refract people's strengths. If you identify my strength, please help me to refract that strength. Don't be the agent of suppressing that strength. But what happens in organizations is when I realize that my subordinate has so much potential, I become competitive with that person and in the end suppress their potential. Lastly, we need to be normal and lead. When we come to this world, we need to be normal people. And normal people love, normal people work, normal people value others. I come from the field of organization development, and we advance the theory, the science, the practice of organization development, which are embedded in humanitarian values, social values, and democratic values. So because of that, we advance that humanitarianism and would want to see that happen in leadership and in governance.
So it's a great privilege for me to spend this time with you, sir. And I hope definitely your organization leadership and development code will create so many leaders, and our viewers also will be motivated from you, and which will make a positive impact in the society. With this, I am going to conclude the session, and we will come with another scholar in next episode, Scholar's Talk. Thank you for watching us. Thank you a lot, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.